Arkansas Razorbacks and the Texas Longhorns add a new chapter in their historic rivalry. It's all a part of Tailgate Week, presented by Kingsford. Hi, everybody. Ron Franklin, and welcome to Austin, Texas. And let me take you back to the great old days of the Southwest Conference. This rivalry between Arkansas and Texas was, to me, the very best. It didn't matter who was good. They went tooth and nail, and it never stopped. Bordering states, they don't like each other. The biggest of all those matchups back then, 1969. Number 1, Texas. Number 2, Arkansas. They played in Fayetteville, and the Longhorns had to come from behind with, of all things, a pass by Terrell Royal. They went on to score with Bertelsen, and they won the championship by 1 point. But a lot of people say, hey, Ron, it's been a long time since the Southwest Conference was in effect. These kids today, do they remember the rivalry? But I think I could tell you, after living in the Lone Star State for over 35 years and having a lot of friends in the great state of Arkansas, I can promise you, we're not going to have a bunch of lads standing around holding hands singing Kumbaya this afternoon. This is Arkansas and Texas, and it's college football. Ed Cunningham joins us on the telecast as usual. And speaking of history, we have a young man in Colt McCoy for Texas who's working on some history of his own.
Set some last week, as a matter of fact, 62 career touchdown passes, breaking the record of Major Applewhite. But it's not his arm that has everybody talking here in Austin. It's his feet. Greg Davis says that Colt McCoy last year, with a banged-up offensive line, gained confidence in his ability to run, and so they have started calling a lot more run plays. He can throw it when he's running, change direction faster than he looks, and when he runs it like that, they will continue to call those run plays for Colt McCoy.
Well, it's the Big 12 against the SEC. Two of America's highest-paid football CEOs have their big-time programs ready for kickoff. You're watching ESPN on. And the Texas Longhorns make their entry into Royal Memorial Stadium. And Bevo, the mascot for the Texas Longhorns, it's way back in 1960. Well, it's time to take a look at the City X Factor, Ed Cunningham.
And when your quarterback is struggling, you have to find somebody to run the ball. Michael Smith, who was suspended for the first game for a textbook violation, played very well the last 2 weeks. At 5'7", let's not worry about his height, because we saw what a 5'7" running back did for Oregon State against USC the other night.
Amen. Chiz. Well, third member of our broadcast team, as usual, Jack Arute. Talk about, hey, this game was supposed to have been played 2 weeks ago at this time.
Yeah, Ron, and so what did they do after Hurricane Ike forced the postponement? Well, they moved it to the bye week. Take a look at the schedule for the Longhorns and the Razorbacks over the course of the next month. It's a forced march through their respective conferences. So I asked each coach what they thought the issue was, and they said, Bobby Petrino first said, as far as Arkansas is concerned, we're going to have to manufacture, not for this game, but in the future games, some opportunities during the week to heal up and enjoy some of what we lost in the bye. Mac Brown, on the other hand, said, Jack, this is Texas. And he went to an old cliche. He simply said, I told my players, and I'm telling you, it is what it is.
Okay, Jack. The coin toss just a moment ago. A couple of legends. Darrell Royal on the right, Frank Broyles on the left. And the toss is won by Coach Royal, so Texas wins it, but they have deferred to the second half. And the referee today, Steve Shaw, he's out of the Southeastern Conference, a longtime friend, and I'm really glad that he's here for this matchup this afternoon. Personally, I think he's the best in the country, and for anybody who might argue, I say, hey, I'll give you benefit of the doubt, but it doesn't take long to call the roll. He is extremely good, he and his crew. So the Longhorns will go on defense first, and we'll get an opportunity to see the Razorbacks and what they can do offensively as Justin Tucker, a young man from here in Austin, prepares to kick it off for Texas. The series history, the 77th meeting, Longhorns lead 55-21. They met 60 straight times as Southwest Conference opponents. Arkansas, by the way, has won 3 of the last 4. Texas won last time, and that one was up in Fayetteville. 22-20.
And the last visit here, an unranked Arkansas team knocked off a top 10 Texas team. Sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Don't think that Mac Brown has not been reminding his guys of what happened Thursday night and all day yesterday and all this morning. Here's Tucker's kick. High into Buren. And it's going to be returnable 2 yards. Nope, they're going to say stay inside, Dennis Johnson. So, as Arkansas takes the field, we get an opportunity to talk about quarterback Casey Dick. And keep an eye on the top of the screen, and you'll see all 11 starters for the Razorbacks.
Casey Dick, talk about a change of system. 4 offensive coordinators in the last 4 years. Last 4 out of the 5, Arkansas led the SEC in rushing, now leading in passing. Had a tough outing last week. Some very young receivers. Let's see how they get settled down early on.
Michael Smith, the young man you talked about a moment ago, the X factor in this ball game, is the lone setback. And they hand it off to him, bounces it outside, has 5, 6, and maybe 7 yards in the play as Henry Melton is there to make the stop for the Longhorns, number 37.
Kind of got the sense talking to the coaches from Arkansas this week, and don't be misled. Bobby Petrino is a great play caller, and everyone always thinks, oh, he just throws it down the field all the time. But no, he'll mix in plenty of run. We got the field talking to him that it's going to be a lot of Michael Smith this afternoon to settle down these young receivers.
And he's got a second and short. Well, they're going to run what they tried to go with a reverse, and they're knocked down for a loss. London Crawford. I thought that maybe they might throw that one there, but there they tried to cross him up with the run.
Good call. Early on, what you're trying to do is take advantage of over pursuit, but excellent job on the backside by defensive end Brian Orakpo, a senior, a guy who has really bought into Will Muschamp, the new defensive coordinator. So that was an excellent job, though, of not chasing something, staying. It's called staying at home. Good job by the senior.
Orakpo, who we visited with yesterday, one of the Longhorn players, very excited about this offense, this defensive unit. Third down, they need to take it to the 30. Casey Dick, good protection. Far sideline, got single coverage, and it will be incomplete. Pass intended for Jarius Wright on the far side of the field.
Interesting choice. Will Muschamp, of course, a Georgia grad. He's wearing black today. Of course, Georgia will wear black tonight. Awfully excited over there on the sideline. Nice start, 3 and out.
Jeremy Davis prepares to kick it away to Quan Cosby. As warm as it is, and we're close to 90 degrees, he's going to be kicking into a slight wind. The wind, believe it or not, is coming out of the north. Not a long kick. Did not get it to turn over, and Cosby from the 42. Near sideline, 50, and knocked out of bounds at around the 45. 38 yards in the punt and 14 on the return. So let's take our first look and talk about Colt McCoy. And at the top of the screen, just as we instructed about Arkansas, as a flag is down, we'll take a look at a scroll of the starting 11 offensively for the Longhorns.
You just saw that record 62 career touchdowns. He passed Major Applewhite, who came back to Texas to coach the running backs and be assistant head coach after a year as offensive coordinator under Nick Saban at Alabama.
Illegal formation on the kicking team. That 5-yard penalty will be tacked on to the return. 1st and 10.
So 5 yards stepped off. Mack Brown came out to try to refuse the penalty, and they're gonna step it off. He said, Mack, you get the 5, take it. So the starting position for the Longhorns is extremely good at the Arkansas 40-yard line. The tight end, Peter Ullman, number 86, lines up on the right side. McCoy, quick pass in the flat. Shipley at the 30, gets a block, pushed out of bounds at around the 35-yard line. Gain of 15. Isaac Madison defensively for the Arkansas Razorbacks.
And that's roommate to roommate. Jordan Shipley and Colt McCoy, best friends, and Shipley in his 5th year just has battled so many injuries. Hasn't lost much speed. They say he's the 2nd fastest receiver. Very good in space. Good call by Greg Davis. It was a run one way, threw it back the other, and Arkansas over pursued.
Little misdirection with the quarterback. This time they roll it to the right, throw it in the flat. Got it complete to the same person. It's Shipley, and he will have a gain of about 4 yards on the play. Now let's take a look. Brought to you by Best Buy, the impact players in this ball game.
Well, we're already starting to see some guys. Quan Cosby had a nice punt return to start that off. He's all over the field playing opposite Shipley. Jordan Shipley, of course, well, We know how much of an impact he's going to make here early. 2 catches already. And then the offensive tackle, Adam Ulatowski, last year, a knee and elbow injury. This offensive line battled all that stuff. Now they have tons of depth because of it.
Montrell McGee, the first running play of the ball game, and this is going to go for about 4 yards. Elston Forte on the stop. Speaking of Shipley, last week we were at Texas A&M, and we saw his former teammate McGee. They were a great pitch and catch combination in high school, but one decided to go to Texas A&M, the other decided to come to the 40 acres, and that's the way it goes. They've maintained a great close friendship there.
And it's interesting, Shipley wears number 8 because he wanted to be a quarterback his whole life. That's for Troy Aikman. Well, when you play with Stephen McGee and then Colt McCoy, yeah, you're probably going to stick at wide receiver.
3rd down at about 2. Good penetration by Arkansas, and this play is going to be blown up for no gain. In fact, it may be a loss of 1. That is a nice job. I think Shepard is the man who came across and forced the play to not go anywhere.
And if they wouldn't have lost a yard but gained a yard, I think Mack Brown may have gone for it, but now they trot Hunter Lawrence out, who has actually beat out Ryan Bailey, who's been sensational in the past, for the field goal.
Hunter Lawrence out of Bernie, Texas, 6 feet 185, and a junior. This is going to be placed down. The holder is Shipley, and it'll go down at the 25, so a 35-yard attempt near hash mark. Good pass, plenty of distance, and he's good. So the Longhorns waste very little time in getting on the scoreboard with a 35-yard field goal. Let's take a timeout. I knew I was going to forget that. I didn't go ahead and talk about it, but that is a shot last night from 6th Street, the famous area for recreation, shall I say, here in Austin. It's the old Pecan Street area, and going on this weekend is the Austin City Limits Festival that they have every year. They have groups from all over the country, and as we come back into a live shot inside the stadium, but 60,000 supposedly can go to the thing. There are 200,000 visitors in town, so we have 98,000 football fans. That's a lot.
Big weekend.
Yeah.
Well, what's neat is
long necks. I'm not sure.
Well, what's neat is we were just listening to Beck. All the acts that come in and play Austin City Limits, then they'll go play a show at a local bar on 6th Street. It's really good for the city of Austin.
Here's Tucker's kick. High spinner. This one's going to be a little bit shorter. To the 5. This is Johnson. 20, 25, cuts it back into the middle, and it is whacked down hard at around the 35. Curtis Brown on the tackle. Matt Weiner, what do you got? So back to live action here in Austin. Boy, what an upset that would be. Pass right over the middle. Got that one complete to Adams, and Adams down the sideline. Finally bumped out of bounds at around the 45-yard line. Very ironic that the former head coach of the Razorbacks is the man who is now leading the Ole Miss Rebels in what would be the biggest upset of the year. And the quarterback on that football team is Jevin Sneed from right up the road, who transferred from the University of Texas.
Yeah, Sneed noticed how good McCoy was and didn't think he was going to be able to break through, and now playing very well for Houston Nutt and Ole Miss.
Andrew Davey, the tight end, shifts from the left over to the right. Vic. Thrown a little bit too far, and now a flag is going to come in late, and there was contact. Childs, the intended receiver.
I'm not so sure if they shouldn't wave this off for an uncatchable ball. That's exactly what Mack Brown is arguing. There was contact there at the end by Palmer, but the over the head is exactly what Mack Brown is asking for, and I tend to agree. I'm not so sure that that ball was catchable.
Pass interference, number 13 on the defense. 15 yards from the previous spot. Automatic first down.
So it's going to be a first down. And what you're going to see on the replay, actually, the push comes after the ball has gone over his head. See, the ball is over his head now.
He's not even making an effort for it. Childs is not even making an effort.
On the ground.
But Mack Brown, I think, had a good argument there.
But pass interference, so it's 1st and 10 Arkansas. And they get a very large break here with a 15-yard penalty and their best field position of the afternoon, trailing 3-0. Straight ahead, 3 yards maybe for Michael Smith. Let's take a look now with the Arkansas.
The cutback to Smith.
That's Williams, the tight end. They reverse him out, wanted to throw to him, but he was covered. This pass in and out of the hands of Davey, and he got sandwiched between two players, and I mean got hit pretty good. Blake Gideon, who is only a freshman, the starter at strong safety, a freshman out of Leander, Texas, just right up the road.
And talk about a guy who's bought into the program is Henry Melton. Henry Melton was a running back when he first got here, did an excellent job that time getting in the face of Dick and making him throw it late and over the top. Melton has totally bought into what Will Muschamp is selling.
Was a running back for 2 years with the Longhorns, and they moved him to the defensive side of the ball. Third down, Razorbacks need to take it to the 20. Casey Dick back in the pocket, throws it in and out of the hands. Good defense. Pressure that time was coming on to Casey, and he really didn't have time to study very long exactly who he was going to get it to. So it'll go incomplete, and let's see if they go for the long field goal here.
They have had some trouble. Alex Tejada, who dislocated his left kneecap over the summer, had problems with that in high school, was 0 for 2.
Well, he's missed from 45 and from 25. And Ed, this one's going to be placed down 44 yards away. Good pass, plenty of distance on this one. And he's wide to the right. No good. So let's take a timeout. The woes continue for Tejada. Texas, 3-2 quarterback has come in, and he is split wide to the left. Colt McCoy stays in the ballgame, and they call this their Q package, to have both quarterbacks in the ballgame at the same time. Childs comes back right next to the quarterback McCoy. But they give it off on a running play for a very short yardage, maybe a gain of 1. Beckett was right there to put the stop on Vondrell McGee.
Well, one of the things that's really cool is you're going to see this is really a triple option. As the running back comes this way, watch Childs come all the way around that way, and McCoy can either hand it off to the running back McGee, keep it himself and run, or pitch it to Childs. Kind of like the old wishbone, which of course was started here at Texas by Darrell Royal back in 1968.
Pressure coming on, may have been a broken assignment right there, and McCoy's going to take it out for a first down. Elton Ford finally came over to make the stop, and they turned a broken play into a pretty good advantage there with a gain of 12.
It was interesting talking to Greg Davis about Colt McCoy. Last year, the offensive line was just tattered and torn. A bunch of guys got hurt. Chris Hall had to play all 5 positions in one game, and he said what that taught McCoy was to trust his athleticism. He really learned, well, wait a minute, I can run, I can make people miss, and that is really showing up now for Colt McCoy in his game.
Greg Davis, the offensive coordinator. Here comes pressure up the middle. McCoy dumps it off, has the pass complete, but I mean a hit immediately on McGee. He had no place to go as Jerry Franklin, the middle linebacker, a redshirt freshman out of Marion, Arkansas, is right there to put a stop on him.
Franklin, a young man that Arkansas very excited about, just a freshman. Yes. Yeah. And they've had to roll some guys through around him. The middle linebacker, of course, makes all the calls for the defensive front. And they got Freddie Burton back after a suspension for off-the-field transgression. So, but Franklin's starting to get used to some of those guys around him. He's a big-time middle linebacker.
Cody Johnson into the ball game in the backfield as a quarterback draw is run, and McCoy not only has the first down, he's all the way to the 36. Jerry Franklin again, and Cody Johnson, the young man I was just talking about, also a redshirt freshman, through the paving block of a 17-yard gain.
Well, Johnson, they'd love to lose just a little bit of weight. He's up to 255. They want him down to about 235, but they had moved him to fullback for a little while this fall, and that time, all that is a ISO play where it's a fullback leading the quarterback, and Colt McCoy just gives you that extra running quarterback that so many teams are using.
You see Arkansas creeping up on defenses, so they might blitz off the corner, and they do. McGee goes straight ahead, and either somebody moved on the offensive side or that the defensive player on the left came across the neutral zone. Statler is the man who is there to make the stop for the Razorbacks, and we'll check it out with the officials. Here's Steve Shaw.
Offside, number 99 on the defense. 5-yard penalty from the repeat first down.
So Ernest Mitchell jumps off sides and gives the Longhorns a free 5 yards. At the top of your screen, you'll see a scroll of the starting 11 defenders for the Arkansas Razorbacks here this afternoon. Greg Davis continues to use a lot of offensive sets. This time 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers. Throws this one short. Nice defensive play. And again, it's Jerry Franklin. And you see why the coaches are so high on this young man. Tremendous mobility. And that's a tough play to come around and knock it down without getting a hand on the back or getting a pass interference.
Willie Robinson, the first-year defensive coordinator. And an interesting, Willie Robinson was in St. Louis. Was let go in that staff. Of course, you see the turmoil going on for the Rams right now, so probably happy to be back at the college level. But he got in late. Ellis Johnson was here and went to South Carolina, and Willie Robinson was about a month late getting here.
Cody Johnson back into the ballgame. He's the lone setback next to Colt McCoy. And they give it to Johnson. Outside left, has 5, has 10. Counted off at about 13 yards, and it'll be another Longhorn first down as Zach Stannard along with Robinson combine on the stop for the Razorbacks.
And left guard Charlie Tanner, who's missed the last couple of games, does a nice job pulling out, and it's going to get a really good cut block. And you can see Texas is trying to find a go-to back. They figured it may be Fozzie Whitaker, but he's had a banged-up knee. And they're starting to get Johnson and McGee in there to see who could be their go-to guy.
Johnson's not a breaker, but as you can see, pretty good burst. Gets the ball again. Takes it straight up the field, and at 255 pounds, plows his way for close to 5 yards.
And we'll take a look at the running back by committee. Of course, Jamal Charles left early for the NFL. Surprised some people around here, but Johnson and McGee will get the most of the work today. Whitaker very questionable with a bruised knee, and Obanaya, the guy who they use as mostly a third down back, but they're trying to find that guy they can have 20, 25 carries a game. They just don't have him yet.
8th play of the drive coming up right here as a scrimmage for the Arkansas 16. Very short yardage as Johnson just puts the head down and continues to work. Jericho Nelson in on the stop. Jericho 2 weeks ago was supposed to start at linebacker. And now 2 weeks later, he is back at safety, and they have him in the starting position at strong safety.
You think about all of the changes that have gone on. You always talk about Arkansas offensively, the changes made, but defensively, Reggie Herring was there for 3 years. All man coverage, all pressure. These guys, these young defensive backs and linebackers for Arkansas having to learn how to play zone coverage now. It's all new for them as well.
Well, it's 3rd down. The line to make is the Arkansas 10-yard line. Quick pass, got it complete. That is Shipley right over the middle. And from where they have spotted him, it's going to be enough for the first down by 1.
Colt McCoy is near 80% completion on the season. A lot of it has to do with a very quick release. When he sees a receiver, that ball is out of his hand very quickly. That was good pressure by Arkansas, but McCoy got it out in time.
Cody Johnson checks back into the lineup. Obanaya had come into the ball game for 1 play. As Shipley with all 3 catches from Colt McCoy. 1st and goal, Longhorns. Johnson right at the middle. Oh, does he get hit? And knocked backwards, maybe a gain of 1. It's Malcolm Shepard, another ball player that has a huge star by his name that the coaches light up when you talk about Shepard.
And Shepard did a good job of keeping his balance because he'd gotten knocked back off the ball, but regained his balance and came back and made a nice hit. Not quite as big as Arkansas hopes to have in the SEC at just over 270 pounds, but these guys will get there.
2nd down and goal. They come with the blitz again as Texas rolls the pocket, looking for Shipley. He caught it. Was he in bounds? Yes. Touchdown, Texas.
Well, this was an adjustment on the route. Watch Shipley. He's running it out, and he sees McCoy running to him. It's not there, so he goes back up the field.
Well, that's Burton. They got linebacker coverage on a wide receiver, which is that's a win-win situation for the offense when you can do that.
And a good adjustment by quarterback and wide receiver, seeing that the out was not there, adjusting the route and making the throw.
Extra point attempt by Lawrence is up and good. And with 4:28 left in the opening quarter, our new score, Texas 10, Arkansas nothing.
You would think with a 10-point lead, Mac Brown may just take his the foot off the pedal a little bit. No. What he did, guys, is just after that his team scored the touchdown, he went to the offense and he told them, he said, look, next time we get the ball, let's go get another one. He wants to keep it full throttle. Ron, I think you alluded to that. There's no love between these two teams, is there?
No. And you know, this series, I was sad to see that it ended up being an every year thing, because Jack, it was always fun for that very reason. Didn't matter who was really good. They battled each other to the very end. Johnson, big opening, and finally tackled at around the 34. Let's go up to Matt. Might have something on Ole Miss in Florida. I'm sure we'll hear shortly on that. Quick hit, and that is Orakpo. That is 2 tackles for a loss for Orakpo, and this one, of course, will be going into the books as a sack.
Orakpo going against Dominguez. Look at the little shake and then dips underneath. He is such a physical presence. That knee injury last year at the beginning of the year, first drive against Arkansas State, looked like an illegal chop block, just slowed him down and worked so hard. One of the interesting things he told us, he said, I'm more flexible than I was before. And you can see when he dips down underneath how athletic he is.
Here's a little counter, draw play, and this one, Smith breaks the tackle, takes it out into the open field, and is tackled after a 4-yard gain by Norton.
Brian Orakpo, you'll see as you read down the list after football, he has an incredible voice, so rich, so deep. And there was a traveling show came to town for The Lion King, and the actors actually came out to practice. When Brian met him, one of the actors said, you need to do some voiceover work. And so he's going to look into that when his college career is over.
I sat there talking to him, felt like a soprano. 3rd down, they need to take it out to the 44-yard line. Pressure on the quarterback, and it is incomplete as they were trying to throw it. Sergio Kendall came on a blitz.
Yeah, but he threw it at Dominguez. That's got to be a penalty, yeah. Casey Dick didn't know who he was throwing. He just wanted to throw it away, and he threw it right at his offensive lineman. So.
It was Orakpo. We were just talking about it, who stood there and said, Steve Shaw, that's illegal touch.
Intentional grounding.
Intentional
Number
grounding.
11 on the offense. That penalty will be enforced at the spot of the foul. Loss of down, 4th down.
The difficult thing here is it was already going to be 4th down, and this thing here is going to go to half the distance.
So it works out just like a sack, which is what it should. That's the right call, and give Steve Shaw credit. Didn't throw the flag right away, but realized, oh yeah, that's a number 73. You can't throw it to that guy. That's grounding.
.256 remaining, opening quarter. Texas 10-0. Really nice kick this time, and a fair catch signal for and made at the 32 by Quan Cosby. Greg Biffle looks to go 3 for 3 as the chase heads to.
And now I've got to think for Willie Robinson, the defensive coordinator. The coaches were very honest about what happened last week against Alabama. They had the 2 interception returns for touchdowns, got stuffed on the goal line, but they said, we're just not physically ready to play against teams like that, facing another team with that offensive line. I think they may want to start blitzing soon.
They're going to run a reverse here. This is Shipley who got the pitch. McCoy with a block, and a nice reaction as Shipley came around, and the tackle made for just a very short gain. It looked as though it was going to go for a large one. Wendell Davis, number 47, a junior out of Sweeny, Texas.
Nice job by McCoy. A lot of times you'll do this. Your quarterback will throw a lead block, and he did a good job, kept his head up, finished. A lot of times you'll see a quarterback go out there and just kind of get in the guy's way, but McCoy working very hard to make sure his teammates know how hard he's playing and everything else, because he knows the whole team watches him for leadership.
Arkansas coming on a blitz. Montrell McGee bounces it outside. He'll have the 1st down as he goes out across the 45. Jamar Love, who is one of the captains on the defensive side, he's a senior out of North Little Rock. The coaches talk about him and say a really good work ethic. A lot of fun to have on the practice field.
You know, there's the one thing that Bobby Petrino talked about a lot when we talked to him this week was so many changes, offense, defense, everything changed. And of course there was all that drama last year with Houston not leaving and Coach Petrino coming from Atlanta before the end of the season. He said, we found a group of guys, including the freshmen who came in, who don't mind working. They will put in the hours.
They come with a blitz again. Quick pass out into the flat, and that's going for nothing. Now what Arkansas is trying to do, instead of allowing those guys to get in space, is to make them go ahead and say on the play, what are we going to do?
It was interesting. It was interesting talking to Greg Davis, offensive coordinator, and the youngsters that Bobby Petrino and Arkansas have in the secondary. Said they do one of two things. They either play way back and never let you get behind them, or they play way up and you're able to get behind them because they want to stop the run. And I think you're going to have to start moving up a bit if you're Arkansas, because the underneath stuff's working very well for Texas.
McCoy, second down, zings it over the middle, has it complete. That's Quan Cosby for the first down. And let's go to New York, and thanks so much. And Ed and I may have, not a quarrel, but we have a disagreement. I think it's the biggest upset of the year. Talk more about it. Here's McGee. Turns it upfield. Going to have about 3. And my reasoning on that is, for Ole Miss, who has had a lot of difficulty winning in the conference, that game was played in the swamp. Now, I know Oregon State had the big upset on Thursday night, but that was played
at Oregon State, where USC has historically had some problems.
Yeah, lost 2 years ago there.
I think it's a flip a coin. I've been to the swamp. I know how difficult that place is. So you might be right.
Pass thrown complete to Kirkendall. Breaks a tackle inside the 10, and it's going to be first and goal for the Longhorns. Kirkendall, one of the young players that the coaches say, we've got to get him the football more. They think he could turn into something very special. He's shaken up right now. So that's the end of the opening quarter. This presentation of college football presented by Best Buy will continue after this message and a word from our ABC stations. You're back in Austin. Ron Franklin, along with Ed Cunningham and Jack Arute. Great to have you along on, again, what looks like a Chamber of Commerce type of day here in Austin, Texas, the state capital. Temperature is supposed to go to around 91 degrees, but low humidity. Right now, it is a first and goal, Texas Longhorns at the Arkansas 7. Down to the 1-yard line. It's going to be second and goal as Dallas Washington makes the tackle on Vondrell McGee. And Texas continues to play tailback by committee.
And with this offensive line, I think they might be able to get away with that. I think that Mack Brown and his staff would love to have a guy like a Jamal Charles, like a Cedric Benson. But this offensive line, with what they went through last year, they are too deep all the way across, keeps the competition high.
Well, Roy Miller, who was a defensive tackle, I believe he has come in that short formation as the blocker, and they go straight ahead with Cody Johnson, and it's a touchdown for the Texas Longhorns. New position for Miller. He's a defensive tackle, but at 6'2", 295, they put the senior from Colleen into the ballgame as a blocker. Cody Johnson just followed his blocking.
That's a 255-pound back behind a 290-pound plus fullback defensive tackle. Of course, Derek Loki made that position work last year. He's gone, so you bring in Miller.
Lawrence with the extra point attempt, and he's good. So our new score, Texas 17 and Arkansas nothing. And right now it is time for the ESPNU All-State Standings Review.
Well, it's starting to look an awful lot like 2007 with all of these big guys losing to unranked teams. You figure Oklahoma goes up Georgia, a very difficult game tonight against Alabama. And, you know, we were talking about earlier, what was the bigger upset? And I think I might be with you on Ole Miss over Florida. Because Oregon State won 9 games last year.
Yeah, that's right. And Ole Miss has struggled for a number of years. And, you know, but like I said, Jevin Sneed, who was here on the 40 acres with Texas, an outstanding quarterback. But as Mack Brown said, you know, we would love to have had him to stay such a good football player and a great young man, but he wanted to go someplace. He said, hey, McCoy is, you know, a step better than I am, so hey, it's to Ole Miss's benefit. He set out last year, and boy, you talk about a huge win, and they never have one any bigger than that one.
But that's, I think, the debate of this weekend so far. What was bigger, Oregon State, USC, Ole Miss, Florida? And when we first came out, I kind of thought, no, it's Oregon State, USC. But the more I thought about it, Ole Miss just was awful last year. Houston Nutt goes in there, starts doing a great job. Of course, Snead had to sit out last year because of the transfer rule. But at Florida's place, I think that may be bigger.
This is Tucker's kick, 1-yard beat, and it's Johnson. No place to run. And let's go down to the ball just across the 15-yard line. And now that the stadium has been reconfigured, thousands of people are about 30 yards closer to the field, which makes it very difficult to hear down on that end. Sweep. Smith going to be tackled at the 19-yard line. Jonathan Lewiggs, the center, an outstanding player. I don't think there's any question about that. But an interesting thing this week when he said to the fans and to the news media, he said, look, Casey Dick had a tough time. He threw 2 interceptions for a touchdown, but he said, let me tell you something. He's a quarterback, and you see everything he does, it is magnified. He said, let me tell you, the offensive line didn't have a real good afternoon, but you don't see every time we make a mistake. So he said, we go watch the film, we try to deposit it, we try to forget it. And that to me is leadership from an older guy saying, you know, hey, let's let the guy breathe.
And it is so much different as Casey Dick has to take a timeout. It is, well, they threw the flag. I'm not sure if he got it before the 42nd, the new 42nd clock ran out. But it is so much different for the quarterbacks in Bobby Petrino's system. As Jack was saying, you go to the line, you have to make calls, you make adjustments. Before, it was turnaround handoff to Darren McCoy.
Well, here's a reminder, Saturday night means college football on ABC. See either number 22 Illinois against number 12 Penn State or Virginia Tech at Nebraska. Saturday Night Football presented by Southwest Airlines on ABC tonight at 8 Eastern. Check your local listings for the game in your area. There you can see what I was talking about. That track, the running track, used to come 30 yards back, and now the stadium redesigned is right on top of the field. This is tough on an offensive unit right here. Smith dodges one, and the gang tackling. One of the things that Texas is doing a better job of this year, according to people who cover them. This is a Muschamp trait. He doesn't want one, he wants 6 and 7 chasing the football.
He was known as Coach YouTube when he got here because a lot of his antics on the sideline from his previous stop at Auburn became classics. And he, as a player, he said, I had to do it with emotion and energy because I wasn't very good. So that's what I expect out of guys that I coach.
Third down, they need about 2.5 there. 0 of 3 in third down conversion. They're going to get this one, though. They got it complete to Smith, and he'll take it into the open field. I beg your pardon, Joe Adams there on the receiving end. And that'll be the first conversion of a third down situation. Also moves them further away from that crowd.
It was interesting, the report Jack made in the story you told about Jonathan Lewiggs taking a lot of blame for what happened last week. That's the first time in this ball game that Casey Dick has had a pocket. Texas has been not bringing a lot of guys, maybe one extra, but that's the first time. Good adjustment by Arkansas. I think they're trying to give their tackles some help against Brian Orakpo.
That's Williams, the tight end, in motion. Again, good protection, and he throws it complete. That's Williams. 45-50. 45, and is going to be tackled at the 42-yard line by Chalky Brown. That's the biggest gainer of the afternoon by the Arkansas Razorbacks. It's 26 yards.
And watch Ray Dominguez, the left tackle. And remember before we saw how he came backwards in his set? Now he almost fires out to Orakpo. That's a really nice adjustment on technique, not necessarily strategy, but they told Dominguez, don't sit back and wait because Orakpo's going to run right by you. Went and attacked him, and Orakpo was not a factor in the play.
On the Texas 41, first time Arkansas has been across midfield. Waiting and waiting. That's going to be a flag on a defensive. It may be holding rather than pass interference. Williams, the tight end, was being held up by Roderick McElroy.
Williams is such a good
Pass
target.
interference, number 38 on the defense. That penalty will be enforced at the spot of the foul. First and 10.
McElroy's going to get a handful of shirts.
That's the reason I said it could have been holding as easily as it could have been pass interference.
But this is a new wrinkle. Last year, the tight ends, of course, with McFadden and Felix Jones, not much a part of the offense. 19 total receptions, 16 on the year. And Williams himself only had 5. He has 15 already this season.
Here comes a blitz right up the middle. And Casey Dick gets it away. Right call, right defense, down the sideline. 20, 15, and down to around the 11-yard line, Michael Smith. That was the perfect call by Texas for them to run that play.
There is, when you run a blitz, the one thing you get so worried about, look at all the bodies up around the line of scrimmage, and as they come, if you can get to that spot on the screen, nobody's there. And if there's one thing Bobby Petrino can do is call offensive plays. He has such a great feel of what the defense is going to do, and he, I think, knew Will Muschamp was going to call a blitz on that one and threw a screen to Smith.
Sergio Kindle is the man who chased him down. Smith this time dropped for no gain. Roy Miller, big number 99, comes in to make the stop on Michael Smith. That's a discrepancy or a difference of 120 pounds per man with Miller making the tackle on Smith.
Roy actually lost a little bit of weight knowing that he was going to have to be playing a lot more after Derek Lokey graduated, knew he was going to be getting a lot more snaps, so trimmed up just a little bit for this season, not a lot.
Second down and 10. Williams again in motion. They run Smith back into the boundary. Inside the 10. Being pushed down at around the 9. Ron Franklin, Ed Cunningham, Jack Arute coming to you from Royal Memorial Stadium in Austin, Texas. And glad to have you along as the rivalry between the Razorbacks and the Longhorns is being revisited. We have 10:30 left to play until halftime, and our score 17-0 Horns. But right now, the Arkansas Razorbacks trying to make some noise and put it in the end zone. Third down, they need to take it to the 1.
Right tackle move. And it was Dominguez. Arkansas, Bobby Petrino flops his offensive line, so there's not a right and left. There's a weak and a strong.
Before the snap, false start, number 73 on the offense, 5-yard penalty, remains third down.
And you'll see the offensive linemen from Arkansas holding hands. That's for a noisy stadium. They do that so that Dominguez is so far away from the ball he can't see it. So the guard, Grayson, next to him, actually snaps his finger to go. Well, he got a little jumpy there because Grayson obviously didn't snap his finger, but Dominguez worried about being late.
Third down. About 12 yards for the first down. Casey Dick just going to throw this one away. Orakpo, the reason for the boos, the crowd thought that Orakpo was being held as he pursued the quarterback.
Well, yeah, they were right. He was being
Were they?
Yes. But they would have declined the penalty anyway to get the fourth to try to get the field goal. And this has not been a very good unit on special teams for Arkansas this year.
Got a chance right here, though, with a 30-yard attempt and in close on that far hash mark. Tejada. See if he can get this one. He missed his first try of the afternoon. It's Haddock, I beg your pardon, rather than Tejada. And Haddock is good on his first try. So our new score, Texas 17, Arkansas 3.
Dodge, introducing the all-new Dodge Journey. If you can dream it, do it. Dodge, grab life. Aflac, ask about it at work. And Verizon Wireless.
So we are back as you take a look, obviously, at the Capitol building here in Austin. Beautiful structure, and on this day where you could witness not a cloud in the sky. Temperature beginning to go up a little bit. Supposed to reach the low 90s for this ball game this afternoon, as this kick is returnable from the 3-yard line. Quan Cosby. Far sideline. Breaks by a tackle. Spins around for another 5 yards. Right now, let's take a look at our Aflac trivia question. Who was the only Texas tandem to rush for 1,000 yards each in the same season? Who was the only Texas tandem to rush for 1,000 yards each in a season? Got an idea?
Every game when we get this, of course, Eric Bozeman, our producer, doesn't tell us what it is beforehand. I've got to start bringing my laptop. I mean, that's what Google was invented for, wasn't it?
You'd really cheat, huh?
Absolutely.
I mean, your teammates, Jack and I, wouldn't dare do something like that.
Speak for yourself, Franklin.
Thanks, Jess. McCoy got by 2 defenders and now just would have to put a head down and run and pay for it. And he's still going to wind up with a gain of about 5 yards.
You know, it was interesting talking to Willie Robinson, the defensive coordinator for Arkansas. Went back and watched some film from last year with Colt McCoy, and then watched this year. He said pressure last year, having to move, seemed to bother him. This year, it's like he laughs at it. He's so much calmer when things break down. And when you ask Colt McCoy about all the troubles with the offensive line and injuries, he said, that was great for me. It was such a good learning experience. Not sure if he wanted to take that beating again, but he did like the learning experience of how to handle it.
Right ahead, here's Cody Johnson. And Johnson is really deceptive. He is not what you would consider burner speed, but at 255 pounds, he's run past you before you realize it. Your angle of pursuit is not always good.
They'd like to get him down. Greg Davis said we'd want him down around 235, 240. Very thick calves. He's very muscular in his lower body. And the secondary for Alabama struggling bringing him down, and that was where they fell apart last week, was in their secondary on those big runs against Alabama.
McCoy in the flat. Nobody out there making the cover. And a first down at the 34-yard line. Jordan Shipley on the receiving end. And
watch him here.
He's taking it to the 10, to the 5. He got in. Touchdown, Texas, 35 yards. And Malcolm Williams, a wide receiver, who was said to be the fastest of the wide receivers, threw the key block.
And Ron, that's why he gained that weight. He said, I needed to get sturdier there. And he said, but the most important thing that I didn't want to give up on was my footwork. He said, I was beginning to develop that, and not just for passing guys, but for runs like that.
Well, he is a different guy. 179 pounds as a freshman. When he set all of those records, was the Big 12 Freshman Offensive Player of the Year. He walked in yesterday. He's a fully grown man now. Very thick in his shoulders and forearms. So much different than what he was 2 years ago as a redshirt freshman.
The previous play is under further review.
Yeah, it looked awfully close whether he went out of bounds or not.
Okay, we'll let's see. That foot at the 5-yard line could have been out of bounds. Yeah,
it was close.
Yeah.
It looked like there might have been some grass. Boy, what a great shot. I think he's in. That left foot, it looked to me like there was some green grass. Yeah, man, that's a great shot right there. There's just enough on the bottom of the screen that I thought I saw some green grass.
I don't know, Ed.
Wow.
I think at the 5.5 he may be out of bounds.
Well,
he may get a 30-yard gain instead of a 35. We'll see.
But here's, you know, it's interesting watching last night a great game, Connecticut-Louisville, and a play didn't get overturned because they didn't have the evidence to do it. To me, it's so close, and that's the rule. It has to be indisputable. You have to be able to say it's A or it's B, no gray area. And I'm saying that shot right there, which is the perfect shot, I'm saying I don't think it's enough. I think he may have been on a blade of white, but I'm not sure you could overturn it for a...
The replay official today is from the Big 12 Conference. As we mentioned, Steve Shaw and his crew from the SEC. The replay is Terry Turlington. And here comes the decision.
After review, play stands as called, touchdown.
You're right. They didn't have indisputable evidence.
And that's the key. When Steve Shaw says the play stands as called, it means there wasn't indisputable evidence. If he said the play is confirmed,
yes,
then they would have said, well, we knew from the replay it was right. So they just can't overturn it.
Bill Murray on the sideline. I didn't know he was an Arkansas or Texas fan.
I know.
I bet he's here for Austin City Limits.
Probably is. I'd like to be here for Austin City Limits.
Extra point attempt. This is Lawrence, and he knocks it home. So let's take a timeout, and as we go to break, one more look at McCoy's 35-yard touchdown run. You're watching ESPN College Football on 10 mark of the second quarter.
And now for Arkansas, Jack Root gave the report changing up some of their protections. And, Arkansas can throw it. Casey Dick threw for over 300 yards in his first 2 games, although not against the teams of the caliber of Texas. But I think they're going to have to just rear back and let it fly and see what happens.
Texas has scored on all 4 of their possessions, a field goal and then 3 straight touchdowns. And Tucker prepares to kick it off. He's a local youngster, played at Westlake High School. His father is a heart specialist and has a younger sister, Sam, who is a really outstanding swimmer. Now this high end of rim is going to be 5 yards deep, will not be returned. And let's go down to Jack Root, who has a special guest. Jack?
And he's not here for Austin City Limits, guys. He wasn't here actually for the game. Bill Murray is in town for a movie. Is that correct?
Well, I have a movie called City of Ember. It was a part of a fantasy fest here, a sci-fi kind of futuristic, strange movie. Comes out and had to meet the weird people that would like such a movie.
Now, I mean, what's the truth to the rumor that you tried to break into Texas Memorial Stadium yesterday and you were caught by the head coach?
Well, I'm here. I was trying to figure out why I have no burnt orange clothing in my wardrobe, and I realized because it's all here. I got in here yesterday. I've been hanging out with the grounds crew trying to figure out how they get this grass to grow back so fast.
Because there's no gophers.
They've got no varmints here whatsoever. I guess the armadillos have run them all off.
Bill, it's fun to have you on the sidelines. Enjoy the game.
Thanks, it's fun.
Guys, one of the things he told me is, he says, boy, Ed and Ron must really be hurting for stuff upstairs if you want to interview me.
Oh, my. Well, as I said, I thought he might be in town for the
offense. The penalty decline. Second down.
Well, it's interesting talking about the film festival, the Fantasy Film Festival. It's here, of course, Austin City Limits here this week, and South by Southwest Music and Film Festival, one of the best festivals. This city has it down when it comes to having people come and have a good time.
live music capital of the world, it calls itself. Casey Dick running for some open ground here. He's going to have 10 yards, pick up the first down, and actually about a gain of 12.
And good protection again for Casey Dick. There was good coverage down the field, and this offensive line, I think, has really picked up the adjustments that Bobby Petrino and his brother Paul Petrino, who works alongside him as the offensive coordinator. It just broke down late. Dick did a nice job getting around that end, picking up a much-needed first down. They didn't want to send their defense back on the field.
First and 10. Sam Ancho comes in for Texas defensively. Dick, a lot of protection, going to go long, got a man there, and it is caught at the 35 by London Crawford. Went high in the air and took it away from Ryan Palmer. That's good for 35 yards, and again, Casey Dick had time to throw the football.
Move the pocket. It was a controlled sprint out to his right, and Crawford, who the coaches say is not blessed with the most natural hands, he has to work very hard at it, goes up and makes an excellent play because Palmer, you can't cover it any better. Nice job.
London has been hurt a lot too, just little things, and the coaches are kind of frustrated with it. But I guess the young man can't help it. Anyway, he made up a lot of it right there as Smith bounces it outside and then is going to be hit hard and knocked back. Earl Thomas on the tackle, and time now for the Aflac trivia question. And the answer, who is the only Texas tandem to rush for 1,000 yards each in the same season?
I figure it's got to go back to the Wishbone years, but I mean, because you had two backs, that was the whole deal.
Cedric Benson and Vince Young. You knew it had to be in the young era.
I had forgotten.
No pun intended.
I had forgotten that Vince ran for over 1,000 yards.
Yes.
I knew it.
All the defensive coaches in the league knew it. I can tell you that. Oh, my goodness. Not looking for that oncoming defensive player, and Chucky Brown took him down for the 3rd sack of the afternoon.
And that's Will Muschamp. He went with a 3-down defensive line. And an interesting thing, because Gene Chizik had been the defensive coordinator here, who had been at Auburn the year before Will Muschamp got there, didn't have to change much of the terminology. So it was a very quick turnover for this defense. So he can run a lot of his system because they call it about the same thing that he brought from Auburn that Chizik had set up there and here.
3 wide receivers to the right, 2 to the left. It's 3rd down. They need to take it to the 25. 6 pass, got it complete. Avoids 1 tackler, 30. Down to the 28, and Greg Childs is going to be about 3 yards shy. Do you go for it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You've struggled in your kicking game. I know that you brought Shea Haydock out for the last one, and he made it. But right here, you're in that position where I think the field goal is too long, and they're going to take a timeout and talk about it, but I'll be shocked if they don't go for it here on 4th.
So a timeout is called by Arkansas. We'll take it with them. 24-3, and the Hogs with decision time. I know a couple of guys here in the booth. My spotter, Billy Werndell, and the Big E, my stat guy. They have one in their future. They're trying to leave early for halftime. And they got to wait about 5 minutes.
And I think on this big 4th down, Arkansas is going to go for it. I think they should roll that pocket again for Casey Dick to the right. You got 2 receivers down here. I don't think you want to run this one.
Need to take it to the 25-yard line. 4th down. Remember, 4th down rules apply. You fumble, you got to recover. Pass thrown, it is caught. No, dropped. Sorry. Got away from the tight end Williams, and it's Blake Gideon, that freshman strong safety out of Leander we were telling you about.
And Gideon did a fantastic job in coverage here. Remember earlier we saw McCoy come over. This time left arm, and Will Muschamp dealing with a bunch of freshmen. Every safety in the 2 deep for Will Muschamp in Texas is a freshman, true or redshirt. They're coming along slowly, but he said the good news is all the mistakes they make, they're correctable. It's not physical. We can coach them into it.
John Childs in the ball game at quarterback. So McCoy gets a breather at the 5-minute mark until halftime. Flag is down. And Childs will take it for 11 yards. Jerry Franklin will be there to make the stop. Let's say 10 yards. They put it back just a little bit and see what the flag is about. Who is it on?
Illegal formation on the offense. Number 74 was in the backfield. 6 penalty.
So Ulatowski lining up, and you know, more and more this is getting called, and it should be called. And the SEC officials have always been more strict about it, and that is the headgear of any lineman must be around a circle of the waist of the center. And Ulatowski obviously was not. McCoy back in the ball game at quarterback, and they'll run an option with him. Pitches it back. That is great defense as Childs got the pitch, and I mean that play went nowhere. Right now, let's take a look at the.
And Sam Bradford, Colts playing himself into that conversation as one of the top 3 or 4 guys in this league.
Well, that one just a little too far for Vondrell McGee, and he almost shot putted that one, just to make sure that he got the ball there. One of the differences between Colt and some other, I mean, big-name quarterbacks, I think, in the country is who think they have to look pretty with every throw. He doesn't worry about aesthetics. It's just get the ball there, complete the play. That one a little too far.
He does have a very quick release, though. We were noticing that on film. He had that stinger injury a couple years ago against Kansas State, which had affected his throwing motion a little bit, but the ball still comes out very quickly.
Steps up, got it right over the middle, and that's Ullman. Peter Ullman, the tight end on the receiving end at the 20-yard line. Jerry Franklin on the stop. And I'm going to double check here, but I believe this is the worst starting position for Texas all afternoon, because before this, they had the ball more times in the Arkansas side of the field than they had to start on their side of the field.
And a victory for Arkansas defensively. That penalty helped, but they needed something on defense to go their way, and they got it.
John Gold in the ball game to punt. It's the first time that Texas will have punted this afternoon. They're going to let the clock run all the way down, as Jerrell Norton is the deep man for the Razorbacks. So Texas runs the clock down to 3:03, and they call a timeout. So let's take the break with them. Longhorns by 3 touchdowns. This, by the way, if you like to keep up with trivia, this is going to be the first punt in 2 ball games for the Texas Longhorns. They did not punt last week against Rice. John Gold, who has taken over the duties, stands back at the 7-yard line. Beautiful high hanging spiral. Fair catch called for and made at the 25 by Norton.
Well, Wednesday now for Arkansas offensively, they just got a defensive stop.
54 yards on that punt, season long.
Well, he's rested.
He should be. Casey Dick gets by pressure, will not get by Henry Melton. The ball is loose, and at the 20-yard line has been recovered by Texas. So Henry Melton not only gets credit for a sack, gets credit for forcing a turnover. Ben Alexander will make the recovery.
Again, it's the speed of Melton and Arakpo that has been the difference in pass rush situations. This time a wonderful move by Melton. He did what's called a slap and a swim. He slapped the hands of Dominguez, used his right arm to come over the top, and then used that running back speed to finish the play. And what a difference a year makes. Melton wasn't quite sure if he wanted to be a defensive end at this time last year. I think he's okay with it now.
He's going to make a lot more money. He was a good tailback. He could be a great defensive end with that kind of size and speed. Cody Johnson, they get the ball to him. Pumping those big legs, will take it out of bounds at the 15-yard line. And Jerry Franklin, and we'll double check. We had Franklin unofficially for 7 tackles in the first half. Okay, they're going to say officially now 6 rather than 7. But he's had a really outstanding ball game. Redshirt freshman out of Marion, Arkansas. Cody Johnson, not much place to run, but he's taken the defender with him. I mean, he just gave him a ride. Jericho Nelson.
Nelson, who had been playing some linebacker, you mentioned earlier, now at strong safety, nearly 200 pounds, and Johnson quickly becoming a fan favorite with runs like that. They're a little concerned about his conditioning, but on 3rd and short, why not give it to him again?
Well, they go with a quarterback sneak, and Colt McCoy appears to have picked up the first down. Elston Forte, senior out of Little Rock, making the stop.
And last week against Rice, if you don't run him over right the first time, go back and run him over again. And it was almost like McCoy was surprised that he was able to do that against Rice. Froze there for a minute before he kept the legs chugging.
Not sure you want to make a habit of that, though.
No.
Other defensive linemen around the conference look and say, you know, I might have an answer for that. McCoy gonna run it. Take him down at the 5. Forte again.
Well, there is just a huge difference in Colt McCoy's running this year versus last year. Jack was talking about all the weight that he's gained. Of course, Madden, their strength coach, they call him Mad Dog, one of the best in the business. So efficient throwing. He's up near 80% now completions on the season, but when he decides to run, good acceleration and vision downfield.
6 carries, 75 yards, and a touchdown. Quarterback draw. Touchdown, McCoy and Texas.
Bobby Petrino just that long stare, and it was turnovers last week against Alabama.
Yeah. You know, and the interesting thing, and with all their history and everything that they won, last week was the first time in the history of Alabama football that they had 2 returns for a touchdown.
And it was the worst loss in the history of Bobby Petrino's career as a head coach. And there's just going to be a lot of growing pains with how much they're changing the system from what Houston Nutt did.
Lawrence with the extra point, and as we go to break, one more look at the touchdown. Colt McCoy takes it in, 31-3. Quarterbacks